Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Dill sitting here Sunday morning. The Miami Hurricanes storming back on the West Coast, winning 39-38. We said this last Friday night when they beat Virginia Tech. We said, Dill, we love to see this team get their back against the wall and play their best football when it matters. Though we didn't need to see this every week from Miami Hurricanes. Like for my longevity and health, would like to see Miami start playing their best football for four quarters. But again, I'm gonna echo the same thing. Like this team feels different under Cam Ward. Cam Ward came out after throwing a pick six to start the third quarter, deal complete confidence. And I was looking at him like, dude, I don't know how you're so confident. But he's confident. I don't think he ever believes that they're gonna lose a football game. That matters because you can tell this team just rallies around Cam Ward. We said the same thing last Friday night against Virginia Tech. Want to get into the positives first because at the end of the day, like you went across the country, played one of the best defenses in the country and won a football game, scored 39 points when four other teams in the top 10 lost football games on Saturday. Like we're starting to see the scary hours of college football. And if you can just get through your Saturdays, like that matters. Fired up to get into this one now. Before we do, and as always, the Miami Hurricane fans, can't thank you guys enough for rocking with the boys. We're recording 7:30 Eastern time, and we love talking this program. The amount of support the Miami Hurricane fans continue to show to the boys means the absolute world. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Dill, I'll give you the T box here. Let's start with the positives, and that was what we saw in the second half from Cam Ward in this Miami Hurricanes offense.
Yeah, I mean, they were good. They were pretty much good all the time. I mean, Cam Ward in the first half certainly made some plays you can't really make, taking sacks, holding on to the ball too long, kind of reminiscent of some of the things he used to
Yeah.
do at Washington State. But even in the first half, they were pretty good. They were running the ball really, really well. And then when Cam Ward had to take over, he took over in the way that you kind of said. Like they just haven't had that in Miami in a really long time where you could put that game on a quarterback's back and just have him go rip it up. He really took over in that fourth quarter.
Yeah, I don't think you're winning that football game with many other quarterbacks than Cam Ward. Like how many other quarterbacks in the country are you trusting to come back by 25 points in a second half? Like I just don't think there's many quarterbacks that have the firepower to do so. If you're Miami, so you're at least coming out of this football game saying, like we're really never out of a football game when you have Cam Ward. Like Dill, we're Michigan fans. Like we go down 14, we're pretty much out of the football game. Like you're down 25 in the second half. If you're Miami, you can go win a football game, pretty consistently because we just saw back-to-back weeks. Let's talk about what Cam Ward needs to clean up first because we've given Cam Ward his flowers. Like at times, Cam Ward has looked like the best quarterback in the country. I would still put him as one of, if not the best quarterback in the country. I think you said it best. In the first half, it did seem like he was trying to play the hero ball that we saw him try to play at Washington State. When in reality, like you have a run game that I think is one of the positive takeaways you have from this football game. Like in the first half, they were running the football extremely, not only explosively, but efficiently. That's what we were looking for from Miami. He's like, hey, can we just stay on schedule, impose our will along the lines of scrimmage? I thought you saw that. Now, the problem is you go down by 25 in the third quarter. Like you don't really have the run game in the second half. But if you're Cam Ward, you know you have difference makers on the outside that I think could have played better in the first half, and we'll get to that. But I think more importantly, it's like some of the checkdowns were there, and it seemed like Cam Ward just wanted to continue to push the ball down the field. And at a certain point, I think if you're Shannon Dawson and Mario Cristobal, you say, hey, Cam Ward, we love what you can do from a playmaker standpoint. We want you to continue doing that for our team. But also, if it's not there and you have some checkdowns and you have the ability to just pick up 5-6 yards and stay on schedule with this offense, you got to do that more consistently. And Dill, if he cleans that up, and we've seen him do that at times in this season, that's when he's at its best. If he can do that consistently in the back half of the season, again, this Hurricanes offense is so difficult to stop.
Even he was doing in the second, I mean, taking things with his legs when he had his chance to get loose, he was
Yes.
making those plays. So again, it's just like you see it for the most part, but he has now put them in a hole a little bit for two straight games where there's a couple plays early where it's like, okay, we just want to hit the explosive and that's what I'm going to kind of set my mind to, and we're going to try to do it. Yeah, he just needs to play the way he's been playing in these later parts of the game where he starts to again, just be more complete in what he's doing, open up all the avenues of attack Miami has for them in making things happen and being really, really consistent. It's not like they were wildly explosive in the second half. They hit some big plays for sure, but they were really just working the ball down the field.
And Cam Ward said it brilliantly in the press conference. He's like, hey, we're not going to be able to win this game in one play. We just got to go string a bunch of good plays together. And that's what they did. Like the second half version of Cam Ward, that's the Heisman Trophy winner. I think we're both pretty confident in saying that. I think it's also important to note, like Miami kind of dominated this football game from a down to down standpoint. Like you look, and there's this stat there. It's like basically EPA per play, and it kind of measures like what team won more of the plays. Miami won more of the plays. Like you look at the numbers and say, all right, you had 200 more yards of total offense. You doubled them up in first downs. You were significantly better on third downs. You ran the football better. You had the football longer. Every single stat, when you look at those stats and just block out the final score, you're like, Miami probably won that football game by 2 scores. They didn't because there were the plays that Miami didn't win, they got beat bad by, and they kind of put them in a hole. So like Miami played a good game for like 90% of this football game, but when the 10% is as ugly as it was for Miami, that's when you get yourself into a dogfight on the West Coast. Dill, I also want to talk about the offensive line, kind of a tricky unit to evaluate because, again, I thought they were running the football quite well. I thought they held up in pass protection mostly pretty solid, but again, Cam Ward was holding the football a little bit in the first half, but I think
There
second.
was also an element of him not working the pocket for sure, like being a little bit more skittish than I thought he had to.
Yeah,
Again,
agree.
I think frankly a lot of Miami fans are looking for Markel Bell to make a mistake almost, and then when they see it, they kind of try to jump on him. I think you're in that camp a little bit. I think he's playing pretty well for a backup left tackle. I mean, he's not being a lot like you look at some of these teams like a USC or an Arkansas, some of these teams that are like, well, they just have certain tackles who just are going to get beat pretty much routinely in pretty much every play. That is very far from what Markel Bell's giving him. So I think him coming in as that backup left tackle, I think he's taken way too much heat a little bit at times. I think this Miami offensive line, frankly, played quite well.
Yeah, and I think it's also worth noting, like when you're so one dimensional in the second half and you're just throwing the football, it puts you in tough spots in pass protection. Like when teams know, hey, we're just going to dial up some blitzes. Our edge rushers can pin their ears back and not have to worry about setting the edge and stopping the run. It puts your offensive line in a really tough spot. I think you're right. And like, has Markel Bell gotten beat in some moments that kind of like stand out in people's minds? Absolutely. And when Jalen Rivers gets back, like I think Jalen Rivers is your starting left tackle, but you are probably right in saying there's a lot of teams across the country that don't even have like 2 quality starting tackles. For Miami to have to rely on Markel Bell, not only against Cal, but against Virginia Tech too, like 2 teams that are some of the better pass rushing units that you see in the country, and for him to play solid football, I think you're right. Maybe I am a little bit too uh, too hard on Markel Bell. Last thing I'll say is, again, if this team can figure out ways to not get in holes and they have that run game open, like that's what you want. Like I thought in the first half, specific drives, you're like, that's what we kind of expected this offense to look like, where Cam Ward's making good decisions throwing the football, but you're also running the football really well. Again, this offense had over 570 total yards. They scored 40 points. You want to eliminate some of those really bad mistakes, like those 20-yard sacks that take you out of field goal range. You want to obviously eliminate throwing pick sixes. But from a down-to-down basis, this offense was pretty solid. But again, Cam Ward just got to continue to, be the Cam Ward that we saw against Florida, where you're making the plays that you want to make. You're making big-time plays, but you're also not making massive mistakes. Now, going over to the defense, like ton of credit to play. I thought they played pretty much better in the second half. There were still a lot of mistakes, and I think it starts with the safeties. This was a position group that we certainly had question marks about coming into this football game, and Michelle Powell's been really good to start the season. Both him and Jaden Harris struggled. Kind of the same conversation we just had on the offense. The bad plays, the bad mistakes that Miami had, they were catastrophic, right? You had 4 plays that went for over 50 yards for Cal in offense. Cal only gained 370 yards on the night total. So over 2/3. I ain't great at math. but like 2/3 of Cal's offensive production came on almost 4 plays. That
Yeah,
can't
but
happen.
that's a couple straight weeks now of giving up big ones and
Agreed.
not tackling in certain situations.
Agreed.
I thought the secondary's just discipline was really, really poor. That's what really
Yes.
stood out. I mean, play action, leaving guys wide open in man coverage. Like those type of things just can't continue to happen, I feel like. And they let it happen against Virginia Tech. They obviously let it happen in this Cal game. I mean, those things really they need to make them much better.
That
They just need to play better when they play good teams. Like when they go see Clemson probably in the ACC title game, like they can't make those like, mistakes because I don't think they can score in the way they
yeah,
can score against some of these weaker teams.
100%. Like if you want to win a ACC championship, college football playoff championship, you can't play. You got to play much cleaner. I think Mario Cristobal certainly knows that deal. Wild stat of the day: Fernando Mendoza was 11 to 22. He completed 11 passes, a 50% completion percentage for what 285 yards. That is pushing 30 yards per reception for Cal. Like part of playing good defense at the college level is not giving up the explosive play. Again, Miami from a down to down performance, I thought won, but when you're giving up those
No,
explosive
they
plays,
won easy. You're right. I mean, that is the frustrating part though for Miami is they gave up 5, 6, 7 big plays that just like are absolute backbreakers.
so let's get into the good. We said we're going to do the good, the bad, the ugly. The ugly, the bad was explosive plays, missing key tackles. Tackling still was a problem. Simeon Barrow, man, that he made that he earned the NIL that he's getting coming over from
Right.
Miami. He was awesome, and we said like elite pass rusher. We knew that. We're seeing that. Really good against the run too, and that's like one of the things that's standing out to me about Simeon Barrow. Now, secondly, like Malik Bryan's got to play more. I know Malik Bryan might not have the juice that Tyler Barron or that Ruben Bain or Akeem Mesidor have coming off the edge. But man, I think this kid is giving you some good snaps in some big moments. I'm kind of, and Mario Cristobal said, and I think I agree. Like you got to have some of the depth play a little bit better consistently. That being said, you are seeing a little bit of it emerge, and I think Malik Bryant's the guy that continues to catch my eyes.
Yeah, I thought you saw a couple of guys play like better football than I don't think you'd expect. I thought Aguirre at the linebacker spot looked really, really good. I mean, that's a again, you kind of look at how reliant they seem to be on Maui Noah, on Wesley Bassett. I think Aguirre being able to come in and give them good solid reps I think it'll be big because that was a position you kind of looked at like, yeah, you knew you had your two guys, but other than that, it was going to be kind of young, inexperienced. I don't know that Jalen Alderman's a guy they're going to be able to rely on a ton moving forward. So for Aguirre to come in and play good football, I thought that was very encouraging.
Yeah, we're gonna get to like a more of a rewatch. The boys late night for the boys Saturday. We wake up, watch this game again to kind of like refresh what we want to talk about. The boys are beat up, so we'll dive into this game a little bit more later in the week. Obviously, I think Miami's getting a bye at just like the perfect time. We know this is a really good football team. They just got to play a little bit more consistent. And Mario Cristobal said in the press conference, it's not an excuse, but we're pretty dang beat up. Like we got a lot of guys that just aren't playing because they're not healthy. We also got a lot of guys that are playing, but they ain't playing at 100%. And so I think that's another massive storyline. You get the bye week, not only to get healthy, but also to clean up and again, there's small mistakes that are leading to big problems. If you can fix some of those things, like this Miami team is going to be such a hard out every single Saturday. And I think again, Miami fans, like you just never like I'm sure there were some Miami fans that turned the football game off when you're down 25. Like you can't do that with Cam Ward because it's just never over when you have an offense, when you have a quarterback that is as explosive and as dynamic as Cam Ward. Phenomenal football game, phenomenal day of college football, quite frankly. We'll cut it there. Appreciate you guys rocking with the fellas. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Appreciate you guys. We'll talk to y'all later.